morning. It is lovely being here today. And when Arthur asked me to come and speak, I wasn't sure of my schedule, but my answer was, Arthur, yes. Anything for families? Yes. Let's just hope that and pray that my diary will fit into it. And we thank God that I'm here today. With prayer, things work. Our chief guest, Honorable Anna Chiptumo, who is the Cabinet Secretary for Gender, Culture, and Children's Services. We have a panel here, Mrs. Ann Bokwa, the chairperson of the African Christian Professionals Forum, Honorable Lady Justice Caroline Kendagor, Mrs. Josephine Kirumba, Mrs. Rebecca Gitao. I cannot forget our hosts here, the mama who leads Family Peace Women Angle, the chairperson, Arthur Oyange, and any other person here, all protocols observed. Good morning again. I tend to like to speak from my heart, so Arthur, you're going to allow me. You know, yesterday I asked Arthur, and he said, we'll need a script, a speech. And I said, okay, I'm going to write one, but allow me, ladies and gentlemen who are here, that when I start veering off that script and do what I came to do here, I'll have done some service this morning. It's my pleasure and honor to stand before you, ladies and gentlemen, to deliver the keynote speech, which is titled Women Voices, Catalysts for Family Peace and Beyond. And when I look around this room, I see a diversity of faces, different age groups, and from a glance, because I am Kenyan, I can tell you're all from different regions of Kenya, different backgrounds. Some of you may be even beyond our borders, I'm not sure. But one thing for sure, I see many beautiful faces before me this morning. Women have a way of showing up and lighting up a room. That's the strength we have as women. We show up, and when we show up, we light up the place. And the interesting thing is that if one was able, we were just saying this morning, if one was able to find out what happened to each of you this morning before you got here, you'll be amazed. What you had to go through by the time you got out of your bed, the emotional roller coaster you may have gone through because of one thing or other. Starting from right outside, you get off your bed, you realize something is going wrong here and there. You need to sort out this, you need to do this. We multitask. Maybe you did not even sleep. Maybe some even slept crying. There was conflict between you and your spouse, conflict between you and your children, conflict between you and your parents if you're younger. But you end up showing up and saying, I'm coming today to listen and to participate. That is who we are as women, showing up and carrying ourselves well. We are soft, yet tough as nails inside. I'm sure, Arthur, you know that. Soft on the outside, but tough as nails we tend to be. So I'm pleased that I have an audience that I can relate with and who can relate with this topic this morning. You know, for so many years, women's voices were unheard. And then when I wrote that sentence, I asked myself, okay, Gilda, is that really true? Were we unheard? And I said, okay, I might take a back step. Women's voices were unheard and have been unheard even today in public for a long time. You tend to hear more of the men's voices than the women's voices. But do you know women's voices tend to be heard behind the closed doors? And I'm talking to women, so you know what I'm talking about. Today's woman, most of the younger woman, is being heard more and more publicly. And many are putting their voices out there to be heard, whether it is in politics, whether it is at home, whether it is in offices, or even in churches. And that is a good thing. Women have an influence that unfortunately, and I use the word unfortunately, so many of us still do not appreciate we have. We have great influence over what happens around us. And the example I gave, I said, behind the closed door. Those who are married, you can find conflict out there. But when the woman goes in when it is time to sleep, a wise woman, let me use that, you talk to your husband. You're able to say, I think what you said out there, I don't think that was right. How you spoke to so-and-so, I don't think that was fair or right. And you're able to use your influence in that silent, quiet space. And the next day when this man comes out, his attitude towards the thing is different. Am I speaking to you or not? Is that not true, those who have done that? And if you haven't done that, start practicing that. Because we have an influence that we do not appreciate that we have. But we must use our influence positively. That's the voice we're talking about today. How to use our voices in conflict, to prevent conflict, to resolve conflict. So how then can we play a role as catalysts? How should we use our voices? What is family peace anyway? It's sad that you had to rush through some of those slides because they were very powerful. Very powerful. A family, as you all know, a family is a group. It's a unit of a parent or parents, a father and a mother, and the children. That unit. But it can also become into the society, as you saw the reference there of the Kenyan family, or your family in the office. You actually, if you've been somewhere for a long time, that becomes like your family. So the family institution starts, yes, with the immediate, your parent and yourselves. That's the unit. What goes on in there is what ends up creating what we saw on that slide that Arthur was showing us with the news headlines of people being killed, people killing. I remember an episode once when we were shocked, those of you who may be my age and older, there was a news presenter those days, earlier days, it was only KBC. And we really, really used to look up to this lady. And when the news broke up one day that she had stabbed her husband to death, I can see you nodding. We were in shock because that's not the person we knew. But later on, she was given manslaughter, and people said, how manslaughter? That's murder. She killed her husband. But when they looked at the chronology of events, it was appreciated, the provocation to that point, that's why it was manslaughter. That happened in the family. Ladies and gentlemen, when you see that in the newspaper, many of us speak and say, how could they? But you need to go in, and I'm glad we're going to have a panelist discussion here. What really happened? Where did it start? It always starts somewhere. It always starts somewhere. Trauma. People have trauma. And let me tell you something. There is nobody in this room who doesn't have trauma. If you do, if you say you don't, you're being dishonest to yourself. Because trauma comes in various ways depending on you as a person, the way you're made and how that traumatized you. Maybe what traumatized me would not traumatize you, but it's trauma. So we all have trauma. But today we talk about trauma that is within a family, that you see affecting children. And many times you don't even realize that that thing affected you. And psychologists have proven that. You don't even realize. You thought, you heard this, it etched in your subconscious, but you didn't realize that when maybe your father was hitting your mother, or there was conflict, you hid from it and you thought you got away from it, but that trauma remained with you. And the reason why I'm talking about this example is because when we say voices, there are many ways of speaking to avoid conflict that we saw in the papers. Many times, many of us die with it inside. Don't talk about it. But it's building in there. It's hidden in there. And you don't talk about it. And all you need is a trigger 15 years down the road, and somebody wonders, what did you do to your spouse? But it came from that 8-year-old girl. Okay? So what I'm trying to say here is that the voices, before I even get to where the different types of voices we should be talking of, is having that voice to share in a safe space, to get it out, to get that help, so that you do not wound somebody else. You've all had that wounded people, hurt, right? So that's where you start with your voice. The population in Kenya, I don't have the statistics, Arthur, but I believe women are more than men. And so that's the great influence we have in this country today. I was watching, sadly, Voices, because today we're talking about voices. During this past year, when we've had a lot of upheavals here and there in the nation. And some of the things I saw and the women I saw speaking perturbed me. Because I said, if we as women can stand up and speak positively and speak well and watch our language, there'd be a change. I cannot be a mother. I'm a mother of 32, a 32-year-old and 28 going 29. And others who are, they're adopted children, foster, let me call them that. I cannot imagine myself here as Gilda, being around my children since they're young and really using foul language. What do I expect? Ladies, what do you expect? Your children will throw that back at you. And then you wonder, where did this come from? It was you. It was your voice. And when they throw it back at you, then there's conflict because you're saying, how dare you talk to me like that? I'm your mother. But in your house, in those closed four walls, you think nobody else is hearing you other than these children. but you're planting those seeds. Ladies, our voices plant seeds. And I'll ask you, what seeds are you planting in your family, in your offices, in the places where you go? What type of seed are you planting? Because that is what is going to germinate. And that is what you're going to harvest. And then you cannot avoid, because we live in a society. To a young person who lives near you or wherever, we cannot say that that is none of my business. Because guess what? Your children will be associating with the other children. Yeah. So that's your problem. It's your problem to try and make things right around you, to speak. It's your problem. But if you have some goodness in you to help them walk this journey, to get out of that dark space. Because you don't know whether one day your children are going to marry her children. We're a society. So you cannot ignore and keep silent. You have to voice. You have to speak. If God has given you that gift of how to talk to people. And I don't believe that there's no adult who doesn't know how to talk to a young 8-year-old. And just, you can see that this child is struggling because of what's happening in the house. But you're ignoring them. Those are the different types of voices. When we speak about voices to avoid conflict, to create peace around us. When we saw, and I thought, Tina Love, I love you. She spoke so well, didn't she? Saying she's representing the Gen Zs here today. They want to be understood. We, our generation, have created some certain things. Us. Ladies, if you're my generation and those are your children, accept and take responsibility. We raised them. They watched. Our generation let them down in one way or other. But this is what I have to say to Tina's generation. Yes, there may be trauma in one way or other. But I want to see more and more of you, young people, Gen Zs, the young women, using your voices to turn around things. I don't believe that one must stay in one place and complain forever. Life is full of choices. You make your choice. Because you, not your mom, not your dad, you will lie on that bed and you'll make it. So for the young people, you have to make a choice in life. That yes, this happened to me, but I've learned something from that and I'm not going that route. And I'm going to share with others and I'm going to walk with others. And there is your voice. We have to be careful what we speak. We were saying this morning, what you speak becomes. I'm a Christian and I fully believe in that. The Bible says it. Yes. You know, I'm almost preaching. God help me. You know, in the Bible in Genesis, what does it say? God said, and then he tells us, and it was, let there be light. Let there be, yes. And as many do not appreciate the power of that scripture. Words have power. What you say and profess, you will see. Now, I'm going somewhere with this because I started by saying we are a majority in the country as women. Don't you think it's about time we stopped rambling on with negativity and started speaking life into our nation? We're the majority. Why don't we start speaking life? Do not say it as it is, but say it as you want it to be. And I'm telling you, you'll start seeing things changing around us in the nation. But if we keep sitting there, a group of women sit and say, oh, this country is this. Oh, my children have no jobs. This place is this. And all the negative things. Yes, they will remain there jobless because you are professing it. And so I'm just saying that, ladies, we need to start talking in a different way so that we can shift the ground here. We have the power to shift things. I believe in that. I have seen it in my own life, so I'm not just talking in the air. We have the power to shift things by what we say so that we can start seeing the good things that we want to see around us. Now, back to families. Back to families. That was the different voices I was giving you so that you understand how your voice speaks in different ways and the influence that your voice has. Now, when we talk about family, according to the Global Peace Foundation, family is the starting point to peace. And the Family Peace Association here, who've organized this event today, anchor their activities on this, and I think he read it. We believe strong, God-centered families are the foundation of a loving, thriving society. By aligning with divine principles, we aim to elevate human consciousness and bring lasting peace. So families play a crucial role in the stability of a society. My heart breaks today when I see what's happening to families. Things we saw in the West are now here with us. We had such strong families, community, respect, or even pato, a child, because I've taken them as mine. You know, that community supervising, community correcting. But something came in and some now became too much, beating others almost to death. But as a community, when you take yourself as a... So today's families have, we're seeing a decay. But all is not lost. That's why we're here. And I really, really am grateful that we have an organization such as yours who are endeavoring to do the right thing. And even having this meeting here as a first one. You know what? I believe, Arthur, this time next year when you call another, will be 3 times this number. We will. And that's so that impact continues growing. Some years back, a typical family unit comprised of a father, mother, and children. You saw the statistics today. For many women, they've had to walk away. Some have been thrown out. The family unit is under siege. The children are under siege. And yet, even biblically, I'll speak biblically here because I'm a Christian. I believe the others have similar. But we're taught the man is the head of the house. You need leadership. I know the younger generation argue sometimes, and they'll tell me, no, who says it's better than me? And yes, we have equipped the young girls to become as good, and we tell them you're as good as anybody else. But ladies and gentlemen, there's a distortion happening now. The boy child, I have sons. The boy child is in danger. We've equipped the girls, and the girls are strong. And the girls have come up well. But who is going to marry these girls? Who is going to marry them? Who is walking with these girls, with these young men, and teaching them and mentoring them on what it is to be a man, to be a leader in a family? And as mothers, we also have a problem, because even as we have empowered our daughters, now when they meet this young man, we are equal, finished. That's how they know it. And then there's conflict. You know what? Let me talk to the young ones here. How many are here are young, under 30, and married? Even if you're married, under 30, by show of hands. I just want to see who I'm talking to. Okay. Why I'm saying we've created conflict is that now you find competition in the house. I'm not doing this, we're equal. You have to do this. But what is this equality? And how are you using your voice with that equality? Whether you're under 30, not married, or whether you're married. How are you using that equality? Do you know there are God-given roles, whether you like it or not? And I speak here without fear or favor to tell you, you want things to work, you better know that there are roles. And there's a reason why you're a woman. You're not a man. Otherwise, God would have made you a man. You're not a man. You have your God-given roles. And he has his God-given roles. But now, sadly, the young ladies are saying they're not seeing the young men playing those roles well. And that's why we're here today. It's creating conflict. Marriages are breaking off after 6 months. You go for a big wedding, 6 months later, you're told they're not together. That's what's going on. Because the girls are saying, I can't take this. This is not what I signed up for. This guy doesn't show up, doesn't pay rent, doesn't do anything in the house, does zero, and expects me to do everything. Let me go back to my singlehood. That is what is going on. And that's why we're here today. To say we need to bring the family unit back to what it is supposed to be. Married, but you have brothers. Encourage them to man up. Because I think it's time now that focus went to these young men. We've done our bit with the girls. CS, the girls are empowered. The boys are being left behind. So the society is distorted. Families are breaking. The young girls are not getting the men to marry them. And so I'm throwing this to our CS at the ministry. And with Arthur, I know you're already at it. We need to see what we can do for the young men, starting from boys. But they need models, role models, to emulate. And so there's a challenge. But with God, nothing is impossible. With God, nothing is impossible. And so I'm glad we're here today, so that we can see what role. This is a beginning of a discussion for us. Women are nurturers. That's how we're wired. And so we must extend our voices to speak against all ills around us. Speak. Say no. Say no. I think as women, another problem we have is the fear that what will people think? of me, as long as you know you're doing the right thing. Fear is not from God. No. Do it. Speak against violence against women, abuse of children, harassment in offices, discrimination or victimization. Put your fear aside. Find a forum to be heard. There are forums. And so I'm saying that charity begins at home because we live in a fallen world where everybody carries effects, as I said earlier, of the trauma they had into their next relationship. And many times it sabotages that beautiful relationship that God had already ordained for them. And so I encourage you to speak, find a safe space to speak to people so that the relationship that God has ordained for you doesn't crumble. And also so that you can recognize what your partner, your boyfriend, fiancé, husband may be going through because of history, as I've said, and see how possibly then should I take a step back and stop reacting the way I was reacting? Should I change my voice in the way I talk to him? Those are some of the things that we need to do so that we can avoid this conflict and lack of peace. Because children are growing up today thinking that that is the norm. That is not the norm. The norm is a wholesome family. That is the norm. And we must ask God to help us in that way. So it's therefore our responsibility as women to take up reconciliatory roles. It's in it. In fact, long ago, women would be kept away when there's war or fighting because the soft side of you might make the man stop fighting. So we know the influence that we have, and we must use it so that any feuds, whether it's in the nation, if you're in a position of influence, you can be able to speak to a man on the other side and say, I think where we're going, let's calm down. We all have that space because we are the losers. Look at Sudan. Look at Somalia. Look at Congo. If you keep your voices silent, where are you and I going to go? Holding your children, grandchildren, trying to walk. You've seen how the times of genocide in Rwanda, how mothers with babies and walking with their children. So it's our responsibility as women to speak. It's important that we do not hold ourselves back from putting ourselves at the forefront. And yes, it requires courage, but with God, all is possible. So as I wind up, I want to challenge each and every one of us here to talk about good values in society. Let's bring back those values. I was telling a few people this morning that last year I was led to start to go out on social media and speak just snippets of 1 minute. That's how Arthur met me, by the way, through the social media. And a few people said, Gilda, in your position, how can you talk on social media? I say, well, how will I talk to the young people if I'm not there? I have to talk to them. And God put that in my heart to talk to them about values. And it's amazing how over 20,000 of them are looking out and listening to me in those pages. So you too can do that, whatever God has put in your heart to talk to people, in your own way that God leads you. Let us do that. Let us speak out against ills. Let us be the moral compass for our society. Our society is in shambles, but God is able to bring things back to what it is supposed to be. And I believe, without a doubt, that He will do that for us. We must jealously guard the remaining good and clamor for a good moral society and call out what should not be happening. So thank you very much. And I look forward to the next year's event, Arthur, because family is everything. Thank you.